Continuing our mission to help all Hoosiers live well, diabetes is a disease affecting nearly 1 million people in the state. RTV6's Drew Smith introduces us to a local man who's been living with type 1 diabetes for most of his life.
40 years ago, Steve Ahlrichs was a second grader who was on a camping trip with his dad and some friends. It was a guy's weekend, he says, but when he came home, everything changed. He learned that he had type 1 diabetes. He remembers it like it was yesterday. His dad telling his mom that Steve had experienced certain symptoms during that camping weekend.
And my mother was a nurse. Now she was a mom at the time, but she was a nurse, knew the symptoms. And she said, that's not a great thing to hear.
A trip to the hospital confirmed his mom's fear that it was type 1 diabetes. A week in the hospital, followed by a lifetime of changes.
I knew I was different.
Because he says even simple things like walking home from school for lunch proved to be difficult, to say the least.
They'd find me on the sidewalk or in the middle of the street having convulsions. I would have a diabetic seizure.
Steve says when he got to high school, managing the disease got easier. Blood sugar meters were available then, and he got a job working at a camp for kids with diabetes. That's when he found support groups and the love of his life, his wife, Julie.
We were both working at camp, and that's where we fell in love.
And both have type 1 diabetes. For Steve, complications from diabetes are taking a toll.
I've had multiple heart attacks. I've had open heart surgery. My vision is failing. I can't feel from my knees down. And a few other things.
Every day, Steve takes about 30 pills to help manage the disease. Despite the complications he faces, Steve still maintains a sense of humor and says technology is helping, like the insulin pump that is attached to his body every minute of every day.
This tubing goes into a site on my body, and
like a port?
Like a port, and constantly gives insulin 24/7. Every time I eat, I give it a little bit more to cover for the carbohydrates that I just ate.
He says he pays close attention to his diet as outlined by the American Diabetes Association, information readily available on the organization's website. He volunteers for the ADA every chance he gets, like leading the annual Step Out Walk fundraiser.
Everybody needs to know more. The ADA helps us support that.
And Steve says if you or a family member is newly diagnosed, call the American Diabetes Association right away. They have support groups that can be a tremendous help. The number is 800-342-2383. I'm Drew Smith, RTV6.